The smell of fried chicken in a church basement on a Wednesday night was once one of the most familiar smells in America. It came up through the floorboards on supper nights, mixed with hymnal pages, in white clapboard churches from Iowa to Alabama. Number 53 on this list fed 40 Methodists for under $3 a head in 1962. Number 28 was the casserole one woman brought every single Sunday for 31 years. Number 1 on this list is the dessert that won every county fair in the Midwest and then disappeared by 1995. These 60 dishes were not restaurant food. They were what a women's auxiliary cooked for 200 neighbors on a folding table covered in waxed paper. Hit subscribe and stay with us. Here are the 60 forgotten church supper dishes that vanished from American tables. 3-bean salad became the reliable vegetable dish that appeared at nearly every church potluck, its tangy dressing and colorful presentation making it both practical and appealing. The salad combined canned green beans, canned wax beans, and canned kidney beans, all drained and rinsed, with sliced onion, chopped celery, and sometimes diced green pepper. The dressing was simple: oil, vinegar, sugar, salt, and pepper whisked together until the sugar dissolved, then poured over the vegetables. The mixture marinated overnight, allowing the beans to absorb the sweet, sour flavor that defined the dish. Served cold, 3-bean salad provided crunch and tang that balanced heavier casseroles. Church women appreciated that it could be made days ahead, actually improving with time as flavors melded. The canned beans cost pennies and required no preparation beyond opening and draining. 3-bean salad represented practical potluck cooking at its finest: affordable, make-ahead, and crowd-pleasing without demanding attention. Ham loaf with pineapple glaze was the dressed-up main dish that church women prepared when occasions demanded something fancier than everyday suppers allowed. Ground ham mixed with ground pork, breadcrumbs, eggs, and milk was shaped into loaves, then baked under a sticky sweet glaze of brown sugar, mustard, and crushed pineapple. The combination of salty, smoky ham with tropical sweetness created a flavor profile that felt celebratory, perfect for Easter dinners and homecoming suppers. The glaze caramelized as it baked, creating glossy surfaces that made modest ingredients appear festive. Church kitchens made multiple loaves simultaneously, feeding congregations of 100 or more from dishes that required only grinding, mixing, and patience. What made ham loaf meaningful was how it elevated everyday ingredients into celebration food through technique and presentation rather than expense. Families requested ham loaf for special birthdays, knowing its appearance signaled that the event mattered. Stuffed celery sticks brought elegant simplicity to appetizer tables, their crisp green boats filled with cream cheese mixture that could be savory or sweet. Church ladies cut celery into uniform 3-inch pieces, then piped or spread, filling into the hollows using butter knives or pastry bags. The most common filling mixed cream cheese with Worcestershire sauce, garlic powder, and chopped olives, creating savory perfection. Others filled celery with peanut butter, transforming vegetables into snacks that children actually ate. The most ambitious church ladies created rainbow platters with multiple fillings. In Presbyterian churches across the Northeast, stuffed celery appeared at every ladies' tea, wedding shower, and Christmas party, providing crunch and freshness that balanced heavier dishes. The vegetables could be prepared hours ahead and refrigerated, making them perfect for busy hostesses. Stuffed celery represented controlled elegance. Number 11. Sloppy Joes in a chafing dish. A church fellowship coordinator in Flint, Michigan named Geraldine Schatz served these at every Wednesday night youth group supper from 1974 through 1986. 3 pounds of ground beef browned in a cast iron skillet, chopped onion, chopped green pepper, a can of manwich, a squirt of ketchup, a tablespoon of brown sugar stirred in at the end. The whole pot scraped into a silver chafing dish over a sterno burner, kept at a low simmer on a folding table in the church basement, stacks of hamburger buns beside it, paper plates, a kitchen ladle chained to the dish so no one walked off with it. Geraldine's son had died in Vietnam in 1968. The Wednesday night suppers were how she kept walking into a room full of teenagers every week for 18 years. The sloppy joes were the excuse. The teenagers were the reason. Number 15. Ham bone and navy beans, 1 leftover ham bone, 1 bag of dried navy beans, water. That was the entire recipe, and it fed more church basements than any roast or casserole ever did. The ham bone was free. It was already paid for with Easter dinner or Christmas supper. The navy beans cost 69 cents a bag in 1990 and produced enough soup to serve 20 people. You dropped the bone into a pot on Saturday afternoon, added the soaked beans and water, and let it simmer until Sunday morning. By the time the congregation walked out of the sanctuary, the fellowship hall smelled like someone's grandmother had been cooking all night, because someone had. Baptist churches in rural Georgia kept a rotation of women who each took a turn with the ham bone. One family's Easter ham became the next Sunday's church supper. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was thrown away. The bone passed from kitchen to kitchen like a shared hymnal, and every pot it touched tasted like the one before it. In the 70s, you could not open a junior league cookbook in Texas without finding King Ranch chicken in the first 20 pages. The dish had no verified connection to the famous ranch. Nobody knew where it started, only that it spread through church cookbooks and covered dish suppers like a brush fire. Corn tortillas torn into strips and layered with shredded chicken, then blanketed in cream of mushroom soup, cream of chicken soup, a can of Rotel tomatoes with chiles, and enough cheddar to hold everything together. The tortillas softened in the oven, absorbing that spiced tomato cream until the layers fused into something halfway between enchiladas and a casserole. The old cooks knew to let it rest 10 minutes so the layers set and sliced clean. Pull it early and it ran like lava, which the kids preferred. Every family had a version with a different soup-to-rotel ratio, and you learned yours by watching. It peaked in the 70s, slipped away by the 90s, and left behind 1,000 stained index cards nobody can throw out. The right condiment can elevate a meal, and in 1960s church kitchens, a well-crafted chutney was a treasured staple. It was about creating harmony. If a dish was too sweet, a touch of tartness provided contrast. If it felt too rich, a bit of spice added intrigue. Among them all, cranberry chutney stood out for its remarkable versatility. Unlike the smooth, jellied cranberry sauce that became a holiday staple, this chutney had texture and bold personality. Whole cranberries were simmered with sugar, vinegar, and warm spices like cinnamon and cloves. Some recipes included diced apples for extra sweetness, while others added a handful of raisins or even a splash of citrus juice. It was served alongside ham, turkey, or even a simple biscuit, adding just the right amount of tang and depth to any dish. So, what happened? The rise of convenience foods pushed homemade condiments aside. Canned cranberry sauce became the standard, and the idea of simmering a pot of chutney from scratch seemed like too much effort. But with modern palates embracing bold flavors and artisanal spreads, maybe it's time for a chutney revival. Baked haddock with herb crust was a simple yet elegant supper often featured in church cookbooks, reflecting a desire for wholesome, flavorful fish dishes. The haddock fillets were seasoned and topped with a mixture of breadcrumbs, fresh herbs like parsley and thyme, and a drizzle of butter or oil before baking until golden and tender. This preparation elevated the mild white fish, providing a crisp, aromatic crust that contrasted beautifully with the flaky interior. Baked haddock was popular among congregations seeking lighter fare that was still hearty and satisfying, particularly during Lent or other meatless observances. Its ease of preparation and ability to feed many made it a practical choice for church kitchens. The dish exemplified how simple ingredients combined with care and tradition could produce meals that felt special and nurturing, fostering fellowship at communal tables across generations. Creamed tuna on toast points was a rich, savory appetizer that was a common sight at church socials during the 1950s. This dish consisted of canned tuna mixed with mayonnaise, chopped celery, onions, and seasoning to create a creamy spread. The mixture was then piled generously on small triangles of toasted bread, often cut from white sandwich loaves. The toast points offered a crisp base that contrasted with the smooth, flavorful tuna salad topping. Creamed tuna on toast was easy to prepare in large quantities, making it ideal for feeding groups at potlucks. The dish was both affordable and filling, relying on pantry staples that were readily available to most households. Its popularity stemmed from the combination of convenience and elegance, turning simple ingredients into an appealing finger food. It also reflected the era's love for seafood dishes adapted to social occasions. Many remember this appetizer as a classic element of mid-century entertaining that brought people together around the food table. Grape jelly meatballs. Yes, you read that right. These sticky sweet meatballs have been a church potluck legend for decades, and though it might sound like an odd combination, it's one that's impossible to resist. The meatballs are simmered in a rich sauce made from grape jelly and chili sauce, creating a perfect balance of sweet and tangy flavors that you can't help but go back for more of. Every church gathering seemed to have a dish or two that disappeared faster than the others, and these grape jelly meatballs were always at the top of the list. Served hot and with toothpicks for easy eating, they're the perfect appetizer for any event. Despite their simplicity, the combination of flavors has earned them a special place in many hearts. And just when you think you've seen all the unique salads and casseroles, there's one more dish that combines sweetness and a bit of nostalgia. Stay tuned for the next one. Heavenly hash salad is a really good salad, unlike the rest of some of these. This fruit-filled salad is a staple of Sunday school gatherings, holiday dinners, and everything else you would ever associate with church gatherings. If you ever thought you needed a boost to your skin, your gut health, or you just needed more fruit in your life in general, this is the dish for you. Chunks of pineapple, the juiciest and freshest mandarin oranges you could find, the ripest maraschino cherries, the kind America's known for, and additional toppings of grapes, marshmallows, bananas, and apples. You could even have a whipped cream base using Cool Whip or sour cream and add in dry fruits for an extra crunch factor. It was pretty much the dream of anyone who liked their meals sweet and happy instead of sour and bitter. You could make this in advance. It looked amazing, and it tasted even better. Yet this still wasn't really the best part of this dish, believe it or not. The actual strength of the heavenly hash salad was the fact that you didn't need any kind of kitchen appliances to really make it. Don't have an oven? This is for you. It meant that a big majority of the population, which didn't have access to things like ovens, could actually enjoy a dessert too, for once. Now, the heavenly hash bit comes from just the way it looks, nothing else. There's no famous folklore or backstory to this one. It just looks like something you'd find behind those pearly white gates we all dream of. Fresh, vibrant, and undeniably wholesome, fellowship fruit kebabs were a beacon of color on church picnic tables. In an era when gelatin molds and mayonnaise-based salads reigned supreme, these skewers offered a refreshing alternative. Simple yet elegant, they featured a variety of seasonal fruits: pineapple, melon, grapes, and berries, artfully arranged on sticks and drizzled with a honey-lime glaze. The practicality of fruit kebabs was one of their biggest selling points. Easy to assemble, they required no utensils, making them a perfect grab-and-go option for outdoor gatherings. Plus, their versatility made them universally appealing. Whether you preferred tropical fruit, classic apple chunks, or a mix of whatever was on sale, the recipe adapted to suit any budget or taste. Add in the bright, tangy kick of honey and lime, and you had a snack that balanced natural sweetness with a touch of zest. So, what caused this recipe to slip into obscurity? Partly, the rise of pre-cut fruit platters took away the need for the extra effort. Additionally, the modern obsession with charcuterie boards and grazing tables overshadowed the humble kebab. In the 1980s and 1990s, lighter, vegetable-forward dishes began making their way onto picnic tables as health-conscious trends gained momentum. Funeral potatoes earned their name by appearing at every bereavement dinner and memorial reception throughout the 1960s, offering comfort when words failed. The dish combined frozen hash brown potatoes with cream of chicken soup, sour cream, shredded cheddar cheese, and diced onions spread in large casserole dishes. A topping of crushed cornflakes mixed with melted butter crowned the mixture before baking until bubbling with golden, crunchy peaks. The preparation was simple enough that grieving families could assemble it quickly. Every bite delivered creamy, cheesy comfort with satisfying crunch from the cornflake topping. The dish transported easily in foil-covered pans and reheated without losing quality. Funeral potatoes represented the church community's commitment to feeding those in sorrow, showing up with sustenance when tragedy struck. The recipe passed between generations of churchwomen who understood that food was ministry. Lemon chess pie was the tangy variation that brightened church dessert tables with its sunshine yellow filling and perfect balance of sweet and sour. The base was traditional chess pie custard, butter, sugar, eggs, but the addition of fresh lemon juice and zest transformed it into something that made mouths water and eyes close with pleasure. The lemon cut through the richness, preventing the cloying sweetness that plain chess pie sometimes delivered. Churchwomen prided themselves on getting the balance right, enough lemon to taste, but not so much that the custard wouldn't set. The filling baked into a slightly crackled top that gave way to silky, intensely lemony custard beneath. This pie appeared at spring and summer suppers when lighter desserts felt appropriate, though devoted fans requested it year-round. What made lemon chess pie special was how a single-ingredient addition elevated humble pantry staples into something approaching elegance. It proved that church cooking could be refined without being fancy. Ambrosia salad brought tropical paradise to church basements. Its combination of orange segments, pineapple chunks, coconut, and marshmallows creating something that felt exotic despite humble origins. Church ladies drained canned fruit carefully, mixed everything with sour cream or whipped cream, then folded in miniature marshmallows and shredded coconut until the mixture turned creamy white, studded with color. Some added maraschino cherries for brightness, others included chopped pecans for crunch. The salad had to be made hours ahead, allowing marshmallows to soften and flavors to meld. In Southern Baptist churches from Texas to Florida, ambrosia appeared at every covered dish supper, its sweetness making it dessert that could be served as salad without guilt. Children fought over bowls, adults took seconds pretending restraint, and everyone agreed it tasted like celebration in a bowl. Number 20. Broccoli rice casserole. A Baptist deacon's wife in Greenville, South Carolina, named Evelyn Crouch made this every fifth Sunday from 1973 until her hip went out in 1989. Long-grain white rice, a package of frozen chopped broccoli, a half-pound of Velveeta cut into cubes, a can of cream of mushroom soup, a stick of butter, and a chopped onion sautéed together. Baked 45 minutes at 350. The cheese melted into the rice, and the whole thing turned a color that does not exist in nature anymore. Evelyn used a 9 by 13 Pyrex with a chipped corner, and she wrapped it in a folded bath towel for the ride to the church. The recipe cost her about $2.40 in 1974 money. It fed 25 people. The dish still exists on the internet. But what does not exist anymore is a woman driving a station wagon with a casserole wrapped in a bath towel on your passenger seat because the heat would warp the vinyl. Number 21. Cornbread salad. Crumbled cornbread, canned pinto beans, diced raw onion, layered in a bowl, dressed with nothing but the bean liquid, and served cold. In Alabama and Mississippi, this was the church supper women brought when the kitchen was too hot to turn on the oven. No cooking required. Just yesterday's leftover cornbread turned into tomorrow's potluck offering. A box of Jiffy cornbread mix cost 12 cents in 1968. A can of pinto beans cost 15 cents. The onion came from the garden or cost a penny at the roadside stand. Ida Mae Thompson in Meridian, Mississippi, brought this to Mount Zion Baptist Church every June for 22 years. She told the ladies' circle that cold cornbread salad was the only recipe the Lord gave her, and she was not going to argue with the Lord. The bowl came back clean every time. Two ingredients had no business working together, and that was exactly why they did. A jar of grape jelly and a bottle of Heinz chili sauce went into a crock pot with frozen meatballs, and by the time the Wednesday night crowd reached the fellowship hall, the sauce had turned glossy, sweet, tangy, and completely inexplicable. The recipes circulated through church cookbooks by the late 1960s, usually handwritten on an index card with no attribution. The women who made them understood something no culinary school taught: that grape jelly melted into chili sauce creates a glaze with the depth of something that simmered for hours. You plugged the crock pot in before the service, and it was ready when the sermon ended. Kids hovered with toothpicks. Men went back for thirds and pretended they hadn't. When someone finally asked whose they were and what the secret was, the answer, grape jelly, was met with disbelief. That was the alchemy, turning the cheapest thing in the pantry into the first dish to vanish. Cornmeal, bacon, and a little creativity. Sometimes that's all it took to turn a Southern classic into something fit for a church potluck. Hush puppies had long been a staple of fish fries and barbecue joints, but in the 1960s, home cooks found a way to bring that crispy, golden flavor to the potluck table, without the deep fryer. Enter the Hush Puppy casserole, all the familiar flavors of the beloved side dish, baked into a rich, spoonable delight. Fried hush puppies were best eaten fresh, but a casserole could be baked ahead of time, making it the perfect choice for after-service luncheons. The recipe was simple: cornbread batter, bacon, onion, and sometimes a handful of cheese for extra indulgence. No hot oil to worry about, no last-minute frying, just mix, bake, and serve. While hush puppies have stood the test of time, their casserole cousin faded away as lighter, fresher options took over the potluck circuit. Bacon and cheese-laden dishes lost ground to salads and vegetable trays. But with Southern comfort food making a comeback, this forgotten gem might deserve a second look. A touch of smoked paprika, a sprinkle of fresh herbs. Who says tradition can't have a modern upgrade? Swedish meatballs with lingonberry sauce were a celebrated dish in many Lutheran church communities, combining small, tender meatballs simmered in a creamy gravy with the bright tartness of lingonberry sauce. The meatballs were traditionally made with ground beef or pork, mixed with breadcrumbs, onions, and spices, then browned before being cooked through in a savory sauce. This dish represented a melding of comfort and celebration, often reserved for special church occasions or holiday meals. Lingonberry sauce, made from small red berries native to northern climates, added a sweet and sour contrast that perfectly complemented the richness of the meatballs. The pairing created a harmonious balance of flavors that was both satisfying and distinctive. The dish reflected the cultural heritage of Scandinavian immigrants who brought their culinary traditions to American church tables. Swedish meatballs with lingonberry sauce carried a sense of nostalgia and community pride, cherished in potlucks and family-style dinners for its warmth and heartiness. Potato salad with dill pickles offered a tangy twist on the classic potato salad and was a beloved side dish at 1950s church potlucks. This recipe typically combined boiled potatoes with mayonnaise, chopped dill pickles, onions, and sometimes hard-boiled eggs, creating a creamy yet zesty flavor profile. The inclusion of pickles added a crisp acidity that brightened the dish and balanced the richness of the dressing. Potato salad was practical and inexpensive to make in large quantities, making it ideal for feeding many at social gatherings. It could be prepared ahead of time and served chilled, which was convenient for church potluck events where refrigeration space might be limited. The salad paired well with a variety of main courses, from barbecue meats to baked casseroles, making it a versatile choice. Its popularity was boosted by its familiar flavors combined with a small element of surprise thanks to the dill pickles. This potato salad remains an iconic part of mid-century American communal dining experiences. Macaroni salad with pickles and Miracle Whip is a dish that defined many church picnics and potlucks in the 20th century. The combination of elbow macaroni, sweet pickles, and the tangy zip of Miracle Whip dressing made this dish a beloved classic. It was the perfect side to complement the heavier casseroles and meats often found at these gatherings. The sweet pickles added a burst of flavor that balanced the creamy dressing, while the macaroni provided that comforting base that everyone loved. Each bite of this macaroni salad is a mix of textures and flavors, from the crunch of the pickles to the smooth creaminess of the dressing. Whether served as a side or even as a standalone dish, macaroni salad with pickles and Miracle Whip was a crowd pleaser. But if you think this tangy delight was the highlight, wait until you experience the cool, sweet dish that followed this trend, coming up next. You know how the later half of the 20th century started being associated with bite-sized meals and finger foods? The seeds for that were sown just a little bit early with things like pineapple cheese squares. Thanks to Hawaiian Spam, which was introduced by Hormel in 1937, this actually became an extremely popular meal to have at churches. They were the perfect way to get some dairy, fat, and energy into a person's system. and they took next to no effort to make. Those church ladies were often overworked, you know? It was hard cooking for an entire community regularly. Pineapple cheese squares would typically have bits of ham cut into squares topped with cheese and pineapples, and they were excellent. The kind of thing that you could have while chatting away at meals and just socializing. That was also something people needed a lot, and churches didn't just act as places where people could come for a quick and good meal, but also as places where they could meet and interact with others. During the heyday of church picnics, the fellowship hall often doubled as a proving ground for comfort food creativity. One such creation was a warm, gooey dish that stole the show every time it appeared on the table. A blend of melted cheddar, sweet corn, and creamy ingredients baked to bubbly perfection, this dip embodied everything a crowd pleaser should be: indulgent, shareable, and impossible to resist. Cheddar corn dip transformed canned or fresh corn into a culinary centerpiece, and its simplicity was part of its charm. The ingredients were affordable and readily available, and the recipe could be customized to suit any taste. Add a pinch of spice for heat, or serve it with an assortment of chips and crackers. The possibilities were endless. It also had the rare advantage of being just as good lukewarm as it was fresh out of the oven, making it ideal for long picnic afternoons. So why don't we see this dish anymore? Blame it on changing tastes and the popularity of less labor-intensive store-bought dips. In a world where convenience reigns, the Chapel cheddar corn dip has taken a back seat. But for those who remember its rich, cheesy goodness, it remains a delicious symbol of community gatherings and the joy of sharing a dish made with love. Porcupine meatballs earned their name from the rice that poked through the meat like quills, creating a playful appearance that children found delightful at church suppers. Ground beef was mixed with uncooked rice, minced onion, egg, salt, and pepper, then shaped into balls and placed in baking dishes. The meatballs were covered with tomato sauce, often Campbell's tomato soup diluted with water, then baked slowly until the rice absorbed liquid and expanded, poking through the meat surface. The result was tender meatballs with fluffy rice throughout, swimming in rich tomato gravy. Mothers loved this dish because it combined protein and starch in one economical package. The rice stretched expensive ground beef further, allowing 1 pound of meat to feed twice as many mouths. Church women could prepare the meatballs ahead, refrigerate them, then bake just before serving. The whimsical name made children eager to try them, turning a practical budget dish into something exciting at fellowship gatherings. Burgundy stew was the Sunday dinner centerpiece at churches where immigrant families brought old-world cooking traditions to American fellowship halls. Tough cuts of beef were browned in batches, then simmered for hours with onions, carrots, and potatoes in a rich broth deepened with tomato paste and whatever wine the family could spare. The long cooking time transformed cheap, sinewy meat into fork-tender pieces that fell apart at the slightest pressure. Church women would start the stew Saturday evening, letting it simmer through the night so flavors could meld and deepen by Sunday morning. The aroma would fill entire church basements, drawing families toward the fellowship hall before services even ended. What made Burgundy stew meaningful was how it turned patience into flavor and economy into abundance. A single pot could feed 30 people, with crusty bread for sopping up the rich gravy. This was immigrant cooking adapted for American congregations, proving that old traditions found new homes in church kitchens. Pigs in a blanket transformed cocktail sausages into crowd pleasers that disappeared faster than church ladies could refill platters. Little smokies were wrapped in crescent roll dough, arranged on baking sheets, and baked until pastry turned golden and sausages sizzled inside their blankets. The combination of flaky pastry and savory meat hit every comfort food note. Some church ladies brushed the pastries with egg wash for extra golden color. Others sprinkled them with sesame seeds for sophistication. In Methodist churches across the Midwest, pigs in blankets appeared at every potluck, youth group gathering, and church breakfast, their universal appeal making them perfect for crowds containing both children and adults. Women competed to arrange them most attractively on platters. The snacks held temperature well and could be eaten without utensils, making them perfect for fellowship halls. Number 8. Tater Tot Hot Dish. The Lutheran women of Bemidji, Minnesota served this at every funeral luncheon from 1970 onward. 2 pounds of ground beef browned with onion, a can of cream of mushroom soup, a can of cream of celery soup, a bag of frozen mixed vegetables. The whole thing spread in a 9 by 13 pan and covered with a careful grid of Ore-Ida tater tots, placed one at a time in rows, because a funeral hot dish was not a casual hot dish. It was baked 45 minutes until the tots were crisp and gold, kept warm on a card table in your church basement. The Lutheran church ladies did not say much at a funeral. They cooked, they carried. They covered the casserole with a kitchen towel and walked it across the parking lot in the snow. That was the language they had. That was the language everyone in your fellowship hall understood. Number 18, church supper hot dish. Ground beef browned in a skillet, a can of cream of mushroom soup, frozen tater tots layered on top, baked at 375 until the tots turned crispy and the soup bubbled underneath like a Midwestern promise. This was the dish Mildred Oakes brought to her Baptist church in Pikeville for 14 years. She learned it from her mother-in-law, who learned it from a Lutheran church cookbook published in Mankato, Minnesota in 1930. That cookbook was the first written record of what Minnesotans call hot dish. By 1960, cream of mushroom soup had become so central to church cooking that Lutheran women called it the binder. Not a seasoning, not a shortcut, the binder. The thing that held a church supper together the way hymns held a service together. A can of Campbell's cream of mushroom soup cost 15 cents in 1963. A pound of ground beef cost 45 cents. A bag of frozen tater tots cost 29 cents. Mildred's entire casserole fed 8 people for under $1. She tithed 10% of her husband's mining wages every Sunday, and she fed the church every Wednesday on what was left. That was not generosity. That was faith measured in casserole dishes. She never missed a single Wednesday in 14 years. Not when her husband had his accident. Not when her youngest left for Vietnam. She showed up with that hot dish because the church needed feeding and she was the one who fed it. When Mildred died in 1979, the women of the congregation printed her recipe on the back of her memorial card. Brown the beef, add the soup, top with tots, bake until done. That was everything she left behind. That and a church full of people who never went hungry on a Wednesday night. Nobody outside the Midwest knew what scalloped corn was, and the women who made it never bothered to explain. 2 cans of creamed corn, 1 can of whole kernel drained, 2 beaten eggs, a sleeve of crushed saltines, a pour of milk, a chunk of butter cut into pieces, and black pepper, stirred together and poured into a buttered dish. The name confused outsiders who expected shellfish, but scalloped meant baking in layers with cream and crumbs, a method reaching back to the 1800s. Some historians believe the earliest versions were baked in actual scallop shells, though nobody in Iowa ever used one. The mixture puffed up like a savory custard, golden on top with a creamy center that held just enough cracker texture to keep each spoonful interesting. The real knowledge was the ratio. Too many crackers and it dried out. Too few and it wouldn't set. You had to stand beside her to learn it. Most people never did. Walk into any church basement potluck in the 1960s and you'd likely spot a dish that was as vibrant as it was unmistakable. Hard-boiled eggs, stained deep magenta, bobbing in a jar of pickled beets. Sweet, tangy, and packed with a sharp vinegar punch, this old-fashioned favorite was both a conversation starter and a cherished tradition. The method was straightforward. Sliced beets and peeled hard-boiled eggs were soaked in a mixture of vinegar, sugar, and pickling spices, often with cloves, cinnamon, or black peppercorns to round out the flavor. After a few days, the eggs took on their striking color and absorbed just enough of the brine to develop a mildly sweet yet tart bite. Served chilled, they were a staple at Easter gatherings, church luncheons, and even as a side to sandwiches or meatloaf. But as the decades passed, home pickling declined, and beets themselves lost favor in many kitchens. Jars of mayonnaise-based salads took over potluck tables, and the patience required for a multi-day pickling process no longer fit modern lifestyles. Today, however, as fermented and pickled foods make a resurgence, these ruby-hued eggs might just find their way back. Pork and sauerkraut bake was a hearty dish steeped in the culinary traditions of immigrant church communities, especially those of German and Eastern European descent. Combining tender pork with tangy, fermented sauerkraut, this bake balanced rich, savory flavors with a pleasant sourness that helped brighten the palate. The dish was often prepared in large casseroles, making it ideal for feeding sizable congregations at church suppers or holiday events. Sauerkraut, prized for its long shelf life and probiotic benefits, was a staple in many pantries and added a nutritional punch to what might otherwise be a heavy meat dish. The pork was typically slow-cooked until it was tender enough to fall apart, allowing its juices to mingle deeply with the sauerkraut. The bake often included simple seasonings like caraway seeds or onions to enhance the flavor. This dish was more than a meal. It was a symbol of cultural heritage and shared history. Its enduring presence in old church cookbooks shows how food carried stories of migration, faith, and community through generations. Barbecue meatballs were small, flavorful morsels coated in tangy barbecue sauce that made them a popular choice for 1950s church gatherings. These meatballs were typically made from ground beef or pork mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings, then baked or fried before being simmered or tossed in barbecue sauce. Served warm and often with toothpicks, they were easy to eat while socializing and required no utensils. Their rich, smoky flavor and sticky glaze appealed to a wide audience and added a bit of hearty indulgence to potluck tables. Barbecue meatballs were practical for feeding large groups because they could be made in batches and kept warm in slow cookers or chafing dishes. They showcased the mid-century love for barbecue flavors while adapting well to the communal and casual nature of church dinners. Their popularity endured because they combined familiar comfort food with convenient presentation, making them a cherished recipe from the era. Cornbread pudding, the perfect hybrid of savory and sweet, takes cornbread to a whole new level. This casserole-style dish features a custardy texture, with the comforting cornbread flavor acting as a base. Whether you're serving it as a side dish or a dessert, it's versatile enough to fit in any meal. Some versions are made with a rich, buttery sauce that soaks into the cornbread, adding depth to the flavor. Others might include a touch of sweetness, thanks to ingredients like brown sugar or maple syrup, creating a delightful balance of flavors. It's the kind of dish that's perfect for big gatherings, offering a taste of home and nostalgia with each bite. And just when you think this is the perfect combination of textures, there's a dish waiting to take comfort food to the next level. Stay tuned for the next unforgettable recipe. Sunday school macaroni and cheese pie is literally the definition of comfort food. It's pretty much just a baked macaroni and cheese dish that's been amplified with eggs and has been baked until it's really firm. Then, people often slice it and add in different kinds of cheeses. Lots of people would use things like Colby, Monterey Jack, and Parmesan cheese for theirs. Binding agents were really important, so you needed loads of eggs and milk. Another uncommon fact about this time period in America was the way people took a lot longer to recover from the Depression and the war than history books would like to admit. People were still living without basic access to eggs and milk right after the dust settled, and in times like that, churches were instrumental in providing some catharsis for most of the population. The structured texture and easy-to-serve nature of the macaroni and cheese pie also made it a hit with children, which meant that lots of families, both suburban and rural, would come to visit whenever their local church was making this. The late 1980s and early 1990s brought a new wave of potluck stars to church picnics, and virtuous vegetable pizza squares quickly claimed a spot near the top. With a flaky crescent roll crust, a tangy ranch-seasoned cream cheese base, and a colorful array of diced fresh vegetables, this dish was as visually appealing as it was satisfying. It struck a balance between indulgence and health, offering a lighter option without sacrificing flavor. A rare feat on a picnic table laden with heavy casseroles and desserts. The practicality of this dish was a major reason for its popularity. The recipe was straightforward, the ingredients were affordable, and the end result could be made ahead of time and served cold. This made it perfect for picnics, where refrigeration wasn't always guaranteed. It was also highly customizable. Broccoli, carrots, peppers, or even a sprinkle of cheese allowed for personal touches, ensuring it could cater to nearly any palate. So, why did these savory squares fade into the background? Part of the reason lies in the rise of pre-packaged veggie trays and dips, which offered a quicker, less labor-intensive alternative. Additionally, the appeal of ranch-flavored dishes has waned over the years as food trends shifted. Swedish meatballs simmered in chafing dishes at church potlucks throughout the decade, their creamy gravy keeping them warm through hours of fellowship. Ground beef was mixed with breadcrumbs soaked in milk, minced onion, egg, and seasonings including allspice and nutmeg that gave them distinctive Scandinavian character. The mixture was rolled into uniform balls, browned in cast-iron skillets, then transferred to chafing dishes where they bathed in gravy made from pan drippings, beef broth, and sour cream. The meatballs emerged tender, their creamy sauce clinging to each one as toothpicks lifted them from serving dishes. Congregants loved the combination of savory beef with slight sweetness from allspice and richness of sour cream gravy. Churchwomen discovered meatballs could be prepared ahead, frozen, and reheated in gravy. The dish represented cultural heritage many Midwestern congregations brought from immigrant ancestors. Molasses cake was the dense, dark dessert that appeared at church suppers when refined sugar was expensive and blackstrap molasses offered affordable sweetness with complex flavor. The cake was deeply spiced with ginger, cinnamon, and cloves, its crumb moist and almost sticky from the molasses that also gave it a distinctive amber color. Churchwomen baked it in sheet pans for easy slicing and serving, sometimes topping it with simple powdered sugar glaze or leaving it plain to let the molasses speak for itself. The flavor was bold, not for those who preferred delicate sweetness, but deeply satisfying for those who appreciated its old-fashioned character. Molasses cake connected congregations to earlier generations who had relied on this affordable sweetener, making it a dish of memory as much as taste. Children sometimes found it too strong, but adults who had grown up eating it craved its particular richness. The cake kept well for days, improving as flavors mellowed and deepened. Party potatoes earned their celebratory name through sheer indulgence, combining frozen hash browns with sour cream, cream of chicken soup, butter, and cheddar cheese into casserole that made every gathering feel festive. Church ladies mixed thawed hash browns with the creamy base, spread everything into buttered baking dishes, then topped with more cheese and crushed cornflakes before baking until bubbly and golden. The result was comfort food perfection, crispy top giving way to creamy potatoes that absorbed every bit of dairy richness. Unlike funeral potatoes' somber associations, party potatoes showed up at celebrations, wedding showers, graduation receptions, and Easter brunches. In Lutheran churches across Minnesota and Wisconsin, women brought these potatoes to every festive occasion. The casserole could be assembled the night before and baked the next day, making it perfect for busy church ladies juggling multiple responsibilities, proving convenience and deliciousness could coexist beautifully. Number 13. Green bean casserole. The recipe was invented in 1955 by Dorcas Riley in the Campbell's Test Kitchen, but it did not hit full church potluck saturation until the mid-70s. 2 cans of French-style green beans, a can of cream of mushroom soup, a splash of milk, a dash of soy sauce, a can of French's fried onions, half stirred in and half saved for the top. Baked 30 minutes. It was the dish every 11-year-old girl in America learned to make first, because her mother handed her the can opener and said, "Here, you can do this one." That is how a generation of women entered the kitchen, not through a cooking school, not through a cookbook, through a dented can of soup and a mother who needed to set down the potato peeler for 15 minutes. The casserole still exists at Thanksgiving. At a Sunday potluck in 2026, it would look like an artifact on your fellowship hall table. Number 24. Scalloped potatoes. 3 potatoes, a cup of milk, a tablespoon of butter, sliced thin, layered in a dish, and baked until the edges turned golden and the center went soft and creamy. That was the entire recipe that appeared in a 1947 Methodist Ladies' Aid cookbook from Ames, Iowa. No cheese, no onion, no seasoning beyond salt. The milk and butter did all the work, turning raw potatoes into something that tasted the way a warm kitchen feels on a January evening. A 10-pound bag of potatoes cost 53 cents in 1950. 1 bag made enough scalloped potatoes to fill 3 church pans. Women like Darlene Hatcher in Des Moines made this every third Sunday for the covered dish table and never once heard a complaint. Your grandmother did not need a recipe card. She needed a knife, a pan, and enough patience to let the oven do the rest. The pan came home empty every time. It sat at the center of the appetizer table like a small, edible monument, studded with chopped pecans and surrounded by Ritz crackers arranged in overlapping rows. 2 blocks of cream cheese softened on the counter, a bag of shredded sharp cheddar, a splash of Worcestershire, garlic powder, and, in the bolder congregations, a tablespoon of grated onion. Everything mashed with a fork, rolled into a ball with bare hands, pressed into the nuts. It chilled overnight, and by the time it reached the fellowship hall, the outside had firmed while the inside stayed soft. Every church had one woman who always brought it. Nobody else tried, because hers was the standard. She wrapped it in plastic over a paper plate, carried it in the same container every time, set it down without a word. In the 60s and 70s, a cheese ball opened every church social, every holiday reception. Now the crackers come with hummus, and the Tupperware is at the thrift store. Scarcity has always been the mother of invention in the kitchen. During the Great Depression, when meat was expensive and every pantry item had to stretch, cooks turned to flour, tomatoes, and a little ingenuity to keep their families fed. By the 1960s, some of those frugal Depression-era dishes still lingered in church cookbooks, including one that combined 2 unlikely elements: soft, pillowy dumplings swimming in a sweet tomato sauce. At first glance, it may have looked like a dish in search of an identity. Was it a main course, a side, or even a dessert? The answer depended on who made it. Some cooks thickened the sauce with sugar and butter, giving it a candied quality, while others leaned savory with onions and a pinch of black pepper. The dumplings themselves were simple: flour, milk, baking powder, sometimes a little egg, dropped directly into the bubbling sauce to cook through. Over time, as grocery store shelves became fuller and palates changed, the idea of tomato-sweetened dumplings fell out of favor. Today, it's hard to find anyone who still makes them, but considering how tomato-based dishes like shakshuka and butter chicken have gained popularity, maybe it's time for a revival. Chow mein casserole was a distinctly American adaptation that found a place in church potlucks, merging Asian-inspired flavors with traditional baking methods. This casserole typically combined crunchy chow mein noodles with ground meat, vegetables such as celery and onions, and a creamy or savory sauce, all baked until bubbling and golden. It was a clever way to incorporate the popular takeout dish into a format suitable for large gatherings and budget-conscious cooks. The casserole offered texture contrasts and a mild, comforting flavor profile that appealed to a wide audience, including those unfamiliar with authentic Asian cuisine. It became a favorite because it was easy to prepare in advance, transport, and serve in slices. Chow mein casserole stood as a symbol of culinary fusion and community adaptability, showcasing how churches embraced diverse recipes and made them their own. Its continued presence in some old cookbooks highlights its lasting appeal as a nostalgic and practical supper option. Watergate salad was a sweet and fluffy concoction that quickly gained popularity in the 1950s as a potluck staple. Named after the famous Watergate Hotel, this salad combined pistachio-flavored instant pudding mix, canned pineapple chunks, whipped topping, and miniature marshmallows for a uniquely textured and flavorful dessert. Its bright green color and creamy sweetness made it visually appealing and a favorite among families. Watergate salad was easy to prepare, requiring no baking or cooking, which made it perfect for busy church members contributing to community meals. The salad's balance of fruit and sweet creaminess offered a delightful finish to savory dishes on the table. It also showcased the growing influence of convenience foods and packaged ingredients that defined mid-century American cooking. Many families passed down their versions of the recipe, sometimes adding nuts or coconut for extra texture. The dish became a nostalgic symbol of 1950s social gatherings, evoking memories of shared meals and the simple joys of fellowship. Ambrosia salad is one of those desserts that could brighten up any gathering. A perfect blend of fruit, marshmallows, and a creamy dressing, it's a dish that embodies everything we love about classic church potluck food: sweet, refreshing, and easy to make. Whether it's served at Christmas dinners, family picnics, or Sunday services, ambrosia salad always brings a sense of celebration to the table. The mixture of fruits like mandarin oranges and pineapple combined with mini marshmallows creates a colorful and festive dish that everyone loves. The creamy dressing, often made with sour cream or whipped topping, ties it all together, adding just the right amount of sweetness. It's a dish that can be thrown together in minutes but still feels special. And if you think ambrosia salad is a fun way to end a meal, wait until you try the next dish, a sweet, fruity classic that's just as delicious. Tomato aspic was a long-term mainstay of the 20th century for a few different reasons. It was the best thing you could make out of molded gelatin, at least the most palatable. A lot of people weren't really warming up to having gelatin in their salads because of how it was just too different, and how most of them thought that cold, savory gelatin salads didn't make any sort of sense at all. Despite that, this dish persisted and made a name for itself as exactly that. You would have a tomato soup-based salad served with a really creamy dressing, and the best part was the presentation. People would end up having a lot more fun than they originally expected to have with gelatin. All it took was having a meal and trying it out without someone in your ear telling you how bad it is. Plus, the reason churches really wanted this dish on their menus was because it could work in a number of different ways. You could make a side out of it, a salad or an appetizer. It could even be the centerpiece of your church lunches. And of course, the fact that you could make it ahead of time was wonderful. A lot of churches would actually make this as an Easter special, often with things like cranberry sauces. Prayerful pasta primavera salad was one of these newcomers, combining tender pasta with fresh, crisp vegetables like bell peppers, cherry tomatoes, and zucchini. Tossed in a zesty Italian vinaigrette, this cold salad brought vibrant colors and refreshing flavors to any gathering, offering a welcome reprieve from heavier dishes. This salad excelled in versatility and practicality. It could be prepared a day ahead, allowing the flavors to meld together beautifully. And it traveled well, perfect for outdoor church picnics. The recipe was also flexible. Any combination of vegetables could be used, depending on what was in season or on hand. Even picky eaters could find something to enjoy in its customizable mix. Add a sprinkle of Parmesan, and it could easily transition from a simple side dish to a more filling option. So why has it become a rarity? As pre-packaged pasta salads and pre-made dressings became widely available, the labor of chopping fresh vegetables and mixing homemade vinaigrettes seemed less appealing. Modern convenience overshadowed the care that went into making this dish. Salmon loaf arrived at church potlucks as economical elegance, transforming humble canned salmon into impressive main dishes that fed crowds without straining budgets. Cooks combined canned salmon with breadcrumbs, beaten eggs, minced onion, chopped celery, lemon juice, and seasonings, pressing the mixture into loaf pans and baking until firm and golden. The loaves emerged fragrant, their surfaces slightly crusty while interiors stayed moist and tender. Sliced thick and arranged on platters, salmon loaf was served with white sauce or tartar sauce for added richness. The flavor was distinctly fishy but mellowed by other ingredients, with lemon brightness cutting through the richness. Churchwomen appreciated that canned salmon cost far less than fresh fish, yet provided impressive protein for special occasions. The loaves held their shape through transport and sliced cleanly after sitting on buffet tables. Salmon loaf represented practical thrift dressed up for Sunday. Persimmon pudding was the autumn dessert that appeared at church harvest suppers when wild persimmons ripened on trees throughout the South and Midwest. Gathering the fruit required patience. Persimmons picked before the first frost would pucker mouths with astringent bitterness. But frost-kissed fruit turned honey-sweet and soft enough to push through sieves. Churchwomen processed the pulp together, sharing labor and gossip while filling mason jars for winter baking. The pudding itself was dense, almost custardy, flavored with cinnamon and nutmeg, baked until the top caramelized while the interior stayed moist. Served warm with cream or cold the next day, persimmon pudding connected congregations to the land and to ancestors who had eaten the same fruit from the same trees for generations. What made persimmon pudding precious was its scarcity, appearing only briefly each year. This was survival knowledge disguised as supper. reminding people that nature provided for those who understood. Cherry Delight brought clouds of sweetness to dessert tables, its layers of cream cheese, whipped topping, and cherry pie filling creating something light and indulgent. Church ladies pressed graham cracker crusts into rectangular pans, spread cream cheese mixed with powdered sugar, added Cool Whip billows, then crowned everything with glossy red cherry filling. The dessert required no baking, perfect for hot summer church picnics when ovens stayed off and refrigerators worked overtime. Each layer provided different texture: crunchy crust giving way to tangy cream cheese, fluffy topping, and fruit bursting with sweetness. In Baptist churches across the South, Cherry Delight appeared at every potluck, wedding shower, and funeral reception, its bright red top signaling celebration. Women experimented with variations, substituting blueberry or strawberry filling, adding crushed pineapple, or folding in miniature marshmallows. The dessert stretched expensive ingredients into servings for $50, costing mere dollars but delivering joy to everyone taking a square. Number 19. Hawaiian meatballs. This was the dish a newlywed named Patricia Keene brought to her first Presbyterian church potluck in Shaker Heights, Ohio in 1973. 2 pounds of ground beef rolled into walnut-sized balls, a jar of Welch's grape jelly, a bottle of Heinz chili sauce. The whole thing melted together in a Corningware chafing dish over a sterno flame, and by the time the crock bubbled, the meatballs were glazed in a sauce that was somehow both sweet and savory and impossible to describe. Patricia was 22. She had been married 8 months. The meatballs were her audition. Every church potluck for a young wife in the 1970s was an audition, whether anyone said it out loud or not. The older women tasted. They nodded. One wrote down the recipe in the margin of her bulletin. That was how Patricia knew she had passed. That was your whole test. Number 20. Pork and beans with Frank's. 1 can of pork and beans, 2 hot dogs sliced into coins, a squirt of mustard stirred in, heated on the stove for 10 minutes and brought to church in a covered pot. In 1965, a can of Van Camp's pork and beans cost 13 cents. A package of hot dogs cost 49 cents and made 4 servings. This was the Wednesday night supper that single mothers brought because it was the one thing their children would eat without complaint and the one thing they could make after a 10-hour shift at the textile mill. It never won any ribbons. But the pot was always empty by the end of the night. Always. That told you everything you needed to know about who was eating and what they could afford. The women who made it did not need praise. They needed the pot back by Sunday. Friday meant fish, and for families who couldn't afford fresh filets, Friday meant the tall pink can of salmon on the second shelf. Salmon Loaf took that can, bones, skin, liquid, and all, and turned it into something that held its shape on a plate. The bones were so soft from canning you mashed them right in, and the old cooks insisted on it because that was where the calcium lived. Eggs, cracker crumbs, a little milk, minced onion, and a squeeze of lemon went into the bowl. Then the mixture got packed into a loaf pan and baked until the top cracked golden. It came to the table sliced thick with white sauce, ladled over each piece. Through the 40s and 50s, this stretched a single can across a family of 6. Church suppers during Lent lined the buffet with salmon loaf alongside scalloped potatoes and coleslaw. Your mother's version was never as good as your grandmother's. She knew it. She made it anyway, because that loaf pan was still warm from a woman who never measured anything. For generations, hominy was a kitchen staple, humble, hearty, and steeped in tradition. Made from dried corn that had been soaked and hulled, it had a chewy texture and a mild, nutty flavor that made it perfect for casseroles. By the 1960s, hominy bakes were a familiar sight at church potlucks, nestled right between the macaroni salads and baked beans. This dish was all about simplicity and comfort. Hominy was combined with butter, cheese, and eggs, then baked until golden and slightly puffed. Some variations added a sprinkle of paprika for color, while others mixed in green chilies or crumbled sausage for extra flavor. The result was a casserole that was rich yet delicate, creamy yet slightly chewy, a true standout among vintage side dishes. But as time went on, hominy fell out of favor. Corn in its whole kernel form became the go-to choice, and canned hominy was often seen as outdated. Meanwhile, rice and pasta-based casseroles became more popular, pushing hominy bakes further into obscurity. Yet today, with Southern and heirloom recipes regaining appreciation, hominy is making a quiet return. Its unique texture and mild flavor make it a perfect canvas for modern twists, because some traditions are just worth reviving. Salad loaf was a unique church supper favorite that transformed simple egg salad into an elegant, moldable dish perfect for slicing and serving at socials or potlucks. Hard-boiled eggs were finely chopped and combined with mayonnaise, mustard, and seasonings, then poured into a loaf pan or mold and chilled until firm. Once set, the loaf was carefully sliced into neat portions, often garnished with herbs or colorful vegetables to enhance its presentation. This dish elevated humble ingredients into something visually appealing and shareable, reflecting the creativity and care that went into church cooking. Egg salad loaf was both economical and filling, making it a reliable choice for feeding large groups without excessive expense. Its smooth texture and tangy flavor were crowd pleasers, especially when served with crackers or fresh bread. This recipe remains a charming example of how churches turned everyday foods into communal treats that brought people together in fellowship and celebration. Molded Jell-O with fruit and nuts was a visually striking and festive dish that often served as a centerpiece at 1950s church potlucks. These gelatin molds incorporated chunks of canned or fresh fruit, such as pineapple, cherries, or oranges, and sometimes nuts like walnuts or pecans, suspended throughout brightly colored Jell-O. The molds were typically made in decorative shapes using special ring or bundt pans, making them as attractive as they were tasty. Served chilled, these Jell-O dishes offered a sweet, slightly tangy contrast to more savory items on the table. They required no baking and could be prepared well in advance, lending convenience to hosts. Molded Jell-O was a symbol of mid-century culinary innovation, showcasing how simple ingredients could be transformed into elegant and festive offerings. The texture and flavor combinations made these desserts a nostalgic reminder of the era's social gatherings, where presentation was just as important as taste. Hot chicken salad casserole is everything you want in a comfort food. It's got shredded chicken, creamy mayo, crunchy celery, and potato chips on top for that satisfying crunch that you can't get enough of. This casserole might have started as a church recipe, but it's made its way into countless family kitchens across the country, becoming a staple for any gathering. The creaminess from the mayo blends perfectly with the crunchy texture of the potato chips, making every bite feel like a cozy hug. This dish can be thrown together quickly, baked until golden, and served hot, perfect for busy nights when you need something simple yet satisfying. Whether it's a quick weeknight meal or a potluck favorite, hot chicken salad casserole always gets rave reviews. And if you think this is a crowd pleaser, there's another dish on the horizon that's a little surprising but just as tasty. Glory Be Deviled ham spread is a pretty nostalgic dish. It captures the charm that you would commonly associate with the 20th century. Fellowship meals, potlucks galore, dishes that attracted a crowd and left one feeling better than ever. In the midst of all that, deviled ham spreads started to really take off. Again, the deviled term here is purely for hyperbole. It just refers to how aggressively seasoned the dish is. The spread typically has things like lots of chopped ham and a bunch of seasonings like Worcestershire sauce, cayenne pepper, paprika, and mustard. People also had a fondness for bell peppers and would pretty much always include them in it. The phrase "glory be" was something that was pretty much just a comforting mantra for religious people. Churches offered people a lot of respite and shelter from a lot of the harsh things going on in the 20th century, and that meant a lot to people who were down on their luck. You could go in for a casserole or a ham spread and leave having your faith in God a bit stronger than it was an hour ago. In the mid-1900s, elegance and practicality often found their way onto the same plate, especially at church picnics and social gatherings. Righteous ribbon sandwiches were a shining example of this fusion. A visually striking, multi-layered finger sandwich that was as much a feast for the eyes as it was for the stomach. These sandwiches combined cream cheese, thinly sliced cucumbers, and pimento spread, layered between vibrant slices of white and rye bread. The name may have sounded fancy, but the recipe was delightfully simple, showcasing the resourcefulness of home cooks. Ribbon sandwiches were the epitome of versatility. They could be made in advance, sliced into perfect little portions, and adapted to suit almost any flavor profile. Need a vegetarian option? No problem. Add more vegetables. Want something heartier? Swap in a layer of ham or chicken salad. Their small size made them easy to serve and eat, ensuring that no one risked losing their sandwich during a spirited game of horseshoes. So, why don't we see them anymore? As trends shifted toward more casual grab-and-go fare, the labor-intensive ribbon sandwiches slowly fell out of favor. Glorified rice transformed humble leftover rice into a creamy dessert salad that graced church potluck tables with surprising elegance. Cold-cooked rice was folded with crushed pineapple, miniature marshmallows, maraschino cherries chopped bright red, and whipped cream until the mixture turned pink-tinged and fluffy. Some recipes added chopped pecans or walnuts for crunch. The dish required no cooking beyond the initial rice preparation, making it ideal for busy churchwomen managing multiple dishes. Served chilled in glass bowls, glorified rice shimmered with the gloss of whipped cream and the sparkle of fruit. Children loved its sweetness and the treasure hunt of finding cherries and marshmallows. Adults appreciated how it used leftover rice that might otherwise go to waste. The recipe stretched expensive ingredients across large portions. A cup of rice became dessert for a dozen when properly glorified. This dish proved that church cooks could transform the most ordinary pantry staples into celebration. Chicken and pastry was the Appalachian answer to chicken and dumplings, featuring flat strips of dough instead of fluffy biscuit rounds floating in rich chicken broth. Churchwomen would roll pastry thin as paper, cut it into irregular strips, and drop them into pots where whole chickens had simmered until the meat surrendered from the bones. The pastry absorbed broth as it cooked, becoming silky and tender while thickening the liquid into something between soup and stew. This dish stretched one chicken to feed 20 people, making it the practical choice for church suppers where budgets were tight but expectations high. Families brought their largest pots, and women who made the best pastry earned quiet reputations that followed them for decades. What made chicken and pastry special was its texture. Those slippery ribbons of dough coating your mouth with chicken flavor, the broth rich with rendered fat. This was comfort food that required skill, patience, and understanding of how simple ingredients transformed. 7-layer salad transformed vegetables into architectural triumph, displayed in glass trifle bowls showing every colorful stratum. Church ladies layered iceberg lettuce, frozen peas, celery, hard-boiled eggs, bacon bits, cheese, and onions, then sealed everything beneath thick mayonnaise spread like frosting. The salad was made the night before, allowing flavors to meld and vegetables to soften under their creamy blanket. When sliced, each serving revealed distinct color bands that made children point with wonder. The combination was simultaneously sweet from peas, salty from bacon, tangy from mayonnaise, and crisp from lettuce. In Protestant church basements, these salads competed for beauty and taste, with women adjusting layers based on seasonal availability. Some added cherry tomatoes, others included water chestnuts for crunch. 7-layer salad proved presentation mattered, turning everyday ingredients into celebration-worthy food and showing church ladies understood dishes should delight eyes before reaching mouths. Number 18. Tomato aspic. An Episcopalian woman named Margaret Royston in Charleston, South Carolina, brought this to every luncheon at St. Philip's from 1970 until 1984. 2 cans of V8 juice, 2 packets of Knox unflavored gelatin, a diced celery stalk, a tablespoon of Worcestershire, a dash of hot sauce, set in a ring mold and unmolded onto a bed of iceberg lettuce with a dollop of homemade mayonnaise in the center. It quivered. It was the color of a brick left out in the rain. Half the women at your table loved it. Half the women at your table could not swallow it. Margaret did not care. The aspic was a declaration. It said she had a ring mold, she had time on a Friday afternoon to make something that had to set overnight, and she had grown up in a house where a congealed salad was not a punchline, but a sign that lunch had been taken seriously. The aspic disappeared when the women who understood what your ring mold meant stopped throwing luncheons. Number 13. Green bean casserole. 2 cans of green beans, 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, a handful of French fried onions on top, baked at 350 for 25 minutes. This recipe was invented in 1955 by Dorcas Riley at the Campbell Soup Company test kitchen in Camden, New Jersey. She created it for the Associated Press, and within 5 years it had migrated from holiday tables to church fellowship halls across the country. By 1965, you could not walk into a covered dish supper without seeing at least 2 pans of green bean casserole on the table. The canned beans cost 10 cents each, the soup cost 15 cents, the fried onions cost a quarter. An entire casserole that served 8 people cost 60 cents. Dorcas Riley never made a penny from the recipe. She gave it away for free, the same way church women gave away their time and their cooking. When she died in 2018, the New York Times ran her obituary. The headline mentioned the casserole. That was how the world remembered her. Not a bad legacy for 60 cents worth of canned goods. If you grew up in Arkansas, you knew talarine. If you grew up anywhere else, you'd never heard the word. This was a regional ground beef and noodle casserole that showed up at every potluck in the state from the 50s through the late 80s. So local it barely appeared in cookbooks outside the Ozarks. Ground beef browned with onion, stirred into egg noodles with canned tomatoes, corn, and a heavy pour of shredded cheddar, then baked until the cheese melted into the pasta and the edges crisped. Some versions added cream of mushroom soup. Others stayed clean, just beef, noodles, tomatoes, cheese. The name likely came from a mangled pronunciation of tagliarini, the Italian pasta, filtered through generations of Ozark kitchens until the Italian vanished and only the Arkansas version remained. It was Hamburger Helper before Hamburger Helper existed. The women who made it are in their 80s now, if they're still here at all, and the church cookbooks that carried their recipes sit in boxes nobody has opened since the funeral. Long before plant-based eating became a trend, certain church communities were already perfecting vegetarian cooking. Among them were Seventh-day Adventists, known for their focus on wholesome, meat-free meals. Their solution to the Sunday potluck classic? A cottage cheese loaf, a dish that looked like meatloaf but delivered its own distinct, hearty flavor. The recipe was a blend of practicality and creativity. Cottage cheese provided protein, while eggs, breadcrumbs, and seasonings bound everything together. Some versions included chopped nuts for texture, while others leaned on onions, celery, and soy sauce for depth. Once baked, it held its shape like traditional meatloaf but had a lighter, slightly creamy bite. Often served with gravy or tomato sauce, it was a staple in Adventist gatherings, where it became a beloved part of fellowship meals. As the decades went on, however, this dish faded from mainstream church cookbooks. Meat substitutes became more accessible, and the idea of using cottage cheese as a base for a loaf seemed old-fashioned. But with the renewed interest in high-protein vegetarian comfort foods, this forgotten gem might just be ready for a comeback. Baked salmon loaf was a classic fish-based entree that appeared frequently in old church cookbooks, prized for its ease of preparation and satisfying flavor. Made by combining flaked canned or fresh salmon with breadcrumbs, eggs, and seasonings, the mixture was shaped into a loaf and baked until firm and golden. This dish was often served cold, sliced for sandwiches or platters, but could also be enjoyed warm as a main course. Baked salmon loaf offered a practical way to stretch limited fish supplies while providing essential nutrients, fitting well with the frugal mindset of church kitchens. The loaf was usually accompanied by simple sauces such as tartar or lemon butter to enhance its taste. It was a popular choice during Lent or other fasting periods when meat was avoided, ensuring congregations could enjoy hearty meals without breaking religious observances. Baked salmon loaf remains a nostalgic reminder of the adaptability and creativity found in communal cooking traditions. Sweet pickled cauliflower was a tangy and crunchy addition to 1950s potluck spreads, bringing variety and flavor to the table. This dish involved pickling fresh cauliflower florets in a sweetened vinegar brine often infused with spices like mustard seed, cinnamon, and cloves. The result was a vibrant, flavorful vegetable side that combined the natural crunch of cauliflower with a pleasantly sharp sweetness. Pickled vegetables were popular because they could be prepared ahead of time and preserved for longer periods, making them ideal for community events. Sweet pickled cauliflower provided a refreshing contrast to heavier casseroles and baked dishes commonly served at church socials. Its bright appearance added color to the food table, while the unique flavor satisfied guests looking for something different. This dish showcased the resourcefulness and creativity of home cooks in the 1950s, who used pickling as a way to stretch seasonal produce and add zest to their meals. Funeral potatoes have earned their name for a reason. This cheesy, creamy hash brown casserole has long been a comforting dish at church gatherings, especially when times are tough. Combining crispy hash browns with a velvety sauce made of cream of chicken soup, sour cream, and shredded cheese, it's the kind of dish that wraps you in warmth with each bite. The top gets wonderfully golden and crispy, while the inside stays creamy and indulgent. While it's often brought to funeral luncheons to offer comfort to those in mourning, it's a dish that is delicious enough for any occasion. No need to wait for a somber event. Funeral potatoes make an excellent side dish to serve with nearly any meal. And if you think this casserole is rich, just wait until you see what's coming next. Another comforting classic that's just as good for family dinners as it is for a church potluck. Grape salads with brown sugar pecan toppings actually got their claim to fame during the 1950s and the 1960s. It was right here when sweet and creamy salads started becoming popular. On one hand, you had people experimenting with every kind of jelly under the sun. On the other hand, you had people trying out creamy ambrosia salads and soups. Basically, people were warming up to the kind of textures and flavors you would find in this salad. That brown sugar pecan topping really sold the deal, though. Whether you found yourself in the Midwest or the South, it was that topping with its buttery flavor and texture that pretty much elevated this dish into the perfect salad to have. If you ever wanted to relax and not eat something too heavy but still get a few bites in, this was pretty much the perfect meal to make for yourself. The creamy dressing basically just used brown sugar, sour cream, and cream cheese. The chopped pecans and the caramelized brown sugar added everything the dish needed. A crunchy and sweet glaze that brought out the best in the grapes. Mid-century America loved a dish that could pull double duty, easy to prepare and satisfying enough to feed a crowd. Picnic pea salad supreme fit the bill perfectly. This chilled salad, made with sweet green peas, crispy bacon, shredded cheddar, and a creamy dressing, was a real statement. In an era when canned and frozen vegetables were kitchen staples, this salad offered a way to transform humble peas into something extraordinary. It became a picnic regular, especially in the Midwest, where hearty and easy-to-make recipes reigned supreme. What made this dish so practical was its adaptability. The ingredients were pantry-friendly, the preparation was straightforward, and it held up well outdoors. No one likes a salad that wilts before the blessing. Its sweet and savory flavors appealed to kids and adults alike, and its vibrant colors made it visually appealing on any potluck table. Plus, bacon and cheddar, arguably the ultimate crowd-pleasing duo, did a lot of the heavy lifting. So, what happened? Well, somewhere along the line, supreme salads lost their shine. Health-conscious trends and the rise of pre-made options nudged recipes like this into obscurity. Party mix filled giant bowls at every church social, its salty crunch disappearing by the handful as congregants gathered between worship and fellowship meals. The mixture combined Chex cereals, wheat, rice, and corn varieties, with pretzel sticks, mixed nuts, and sometimes Cheerios, tossed together in massive roasting pans. Melted butter mixed with Worcestershire sauce, garlic powder, onion salt, and seasoned salt was poured over the dry ingredients and stirred until everything glistened. The pans went into low ovens where the mixture toasted slowly, stirred every 15 minutes until each piece emerged crispy and deeply seasoned. The aroma filled fellowship halls with savory warmth, drawing people toward the snack table. Party mix appealed equally to children who picked favorites and adults who couldn't stop reaching for handfuls. Church women made it in enormous batches, storing extras in coffee cans lasting through multiple gatherings. The recipe offered abundance that cost little but delivered enormous satisfaction. Funeral potatoes earned their somber name by appearing at nearly every bereavement meal across rural America, becoming the dish mourners most expected and appreciated. The preparation was simple. Frozen hash browns mixed with sour cream, cream of chicken soup, shredded cheddar, and butter, then topped with crushed cornflakes and baked until bubbling. The casserole required no skill beyond stirring and could be assembled quickly when grief allowed no time for cooking. Church women kept the ingredients on hand specifically for death, knowing the phone could ring any day with news requiring immediate response. What made funeral potatoes meaningful wasn't culinary artistry, but the message they carried. Someone cared enough to bring food, to show up, to fill a void that grief had emptied. The dish was deliberately bland, comforting without demanding attention. Generations of families came to associate this particular combination with loss and with the community that gathered around it. Funeral potatoes earned their somber name from purpose not taste, appearing at gatherings where comfort was needed most. These combined cubed potatoes with cream of chicken soup, sour cream, butter, and cheddar cheese, topped with crushed cornflakes that baked golden. Church ladies prepared them in glass baking dishes that could be carried warm without burning hands. The potatoes emerged creamy inside with crispy topping that made children scrape plates clean. In Mormon communities across Utah and Idaho, no funeral reception was complete without them, but they appeared at weddings, baptisms, and Sunday dinners. Women guarded specific ratios of soup to sour cream, each convinced her version was superior. Funeral potatoes represented more than food. They were edible sympathy, casserole comfort that said we care without words, proving church ladies understood that sometimes the best comfort comes from creamy potatoes and cornflake crunch. Number 9. Hot chicken salad. A Presbyterian Women's Circle president in Nashville, Tennessee, named Virginia Presley, brought this to every October bazaar at Westminster from 1971 onward. It cost her about $1.75 to make and fed 30 people. 2 cups of cooked chicken, diced. 2 cups of chopped celery. A cup of mayonnaise. A cup of cream of chicken soup. A cup of shredded cheddar. A cup of slivered almonds. A cup of crushed potato chips on top. Baked 30 minutes at 350. It was the dish that confused the men because it was called salad, but it came out hot, and somehow that question was never really answered. Virginia served it with sliced beef tomatoes and a scoop on a lettuce leaf. She brought it in a long pan that had belonged to her mother. The pan had a dent in the corner from a move in 1952, and every time she put it in your oven, she thought about her mother's kitchen. The recipe was the recipe. The pan was the memory. Number 11. Deviled egg casserole. A dozen hard-boiled eggs, a can of cream of celery soup, breadcrumbs on top. The eggs were halved, the yolks scooped out and mixed with mustard and a little of the soup, then stuffed back into the whites and arranged in a baking dish. The rest of the soup was poured over the top, the breadcrumbs scattered like dust, and the whole thing baked for 20 minutes. This was the dish that church ladies invented when they had too many eggs and not enough imagination to make anything else. But it worked. A dozen eggs cost 57 cents in 1965. The soup cost 15 cents. The breadcrumbs cost a dime. And the result tasted like your grandmother's deviled eggs had married a casserole and settled down in a fellowship hall somewhere in Indiana. Deviled eggs were already the most fought-over item on every potluck table in America. Turning them into a casserole meant they lasted longer and fed more people. That was the kind of math your grandmother understood better than anyone. Funeral potatoes showed up before the grieving family even made it home from the cemetery. Some woman from the Relief Society, and it was always a woman, would already have a pan warming in the church kitchen. Shredded hash browns folded into sour cream, cream of chicken soup, and sharp cheddar, then crowned with buttered cornflakes that turned golden and crackly in the oven. The dish came out of 1950s Mormon communities in Utah, where the Women's Relief Society organized bereavement meals with military precision. By the 60s, it had spread into Lutheran basements across the Midwest. At the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, funeral potatoes appeared on a commemorative souvenir pin, proof of how deeply the casserole had rooted itself. The cornflake crust was the signature, visible from across the fellowship hall. The women who assembled those pans without a recipe, who folded in sour cream by feel alone, are mostly gone. The pan still comes out. It never tastes quite right. You could see straight through to the bottom of the bowl, and that was the whole point. Few dishes stretched $1 quite like slow-cooked cabbage. Affordable, filling, and easy to prepare, it was a mainstay of Depression-era kitchens, and by the 1960s, it still held a place of honor at Sunday dinners and church potlucks. With just a few simple ingredients, home cooks could transform a plain head of cabbage into something deeply flavorful, proving that good food didn't have to be expensive. The secret was low and slow cooking. Sliced cabbage was simmered down with onions, garlic, and plenty of butter or bacon grease. Some versions added a splash of vinegar or a pinch of sugar to balance the flavors, while others relied on black pepper and a dash of red pepper flakes for warmth. The result was tender, silky cabbage with rich, savory depth, perfect alongside cornbread or served over rice. For decades, this dish was a kitchen essential, but as lighter, fresher meals became the norm, slow-braised vegetables fell out of favor. The rise of steamed, stir-fried, and raw cabbage dishes left smothered cabbage in the past. With today's renewed appreciation for comfort food and heritage recipes, it's no surprise that more home cooks are rediscovering its simple pleasures. Rye bread dressing was a beloved savory side often featured in church cookbooks, reflecting regional traditions where rye bread was a staple. Unlike typical white bread dressings, this version utilized the dense, flavorful rye bread combined with fresh herbs such as sage and thyme, vegetables, and a rich broth to moisten the mixture. The dressing was baked until it developed a crisp golden crust on top while remaining moist inside, delivering a complex taste that balanced earthiness and herbaceous notes. It was a dish that carried the spirit of home and hearth, frequently served alongside roasted meats during holiday suppers or community feasts. Rye bread dressing was also prized for its heartiness and ability to absorb flavors, making it a favorite in congregations with Northern European roots. In many church kitchens, this dressing was more than a side. It was a highlight, sometimes made in large batches to share with neighbors and families. The recipe stood as a delicious example of how simple ingredients could create memorable and meaningful dishes in communal settings. Raisin and nut salad was a sweet and textured dish that balanced dried fruits with crunchy nuts, typically served cold at 1950s potlucks. This salad often included raisins, chopped walnuts or pecans, and sometimes shredded celery or apples, all tossed in a light mayonnaise or cream-based dressing. The combination of chewy raisins and crunchy nuts created an appealing contrast that was both satisfying and refreshing. It was an affordable and easy-to-make side dish that added a touch of sweetness to the potluck table without overpowering other flavors. The salad's cool temperature and rich texture made it a welcome complement to hot casseroles and savory mains. Families often pass down their own recipes with small variations, such as the addition of pineapple or marshmallows. This dish captured the nostalgic comfort of mid-century American cooking, where mixing fruits and nuts into salads was a popular way to add variety and nutrition. It remains a fondly remembered part of church potluck history for many. Liver and onions with brown gravy is one of those forgotten classics that was once the centerpiece of many Sunday suppers. Yes, it might not be the most popular dish today, but it was a beloved favorite for generations. The rich, earthy taste of the liver paired perfectly with the savory brown gravy, while the onions added a bit of sweetness and texture to balance out the flavors. Some grandmothers swore by this dish, preparing it for Sunday family meals, where it was often served alongside mashed potatoes and vegetables. Though it may be seen as an acquired taste for those who loved it, liver and onions were a comforting, satisfying meal. The recipe was simple but effective, showcasing the beauty of slow cooking and rich flavors. And just when you thought we'd covered all the forgotten classics, there's another gelatin dish on the way that might just surprise you. Keep reading for the next recipe. Sunday chicken casseroles were just that. They were the meal you would look forward to at the end of a long week, and while they definitely fell out of the mainstream later on, they were the main star at many church gatherings and Sunday feasts. Lots of people looked forward to a Sunday because they knew they'd be able to eat a comforting meal with a lot of flavor and warmth to it. Something that reminds you of home, you know? This is kind of why casseroles became as popular as they did. They were practical, so you could make them for just about any group of any number and still get away with it. Yet they were also incredibly good for crowds. It wasn't that it was just filling, it was a perfect mix of cheesy goodness and chicken. Sunday dinners were seen as a way for not just people who were struggling to get a good meal in before the week started all over again, but also as a way for families to rest and connect with each other. There was a lot of emphasis on people just sitting together and sharing a meal back then. During the leaner years of the mid-20th century, frugality and ingenuity were staples in the kitchen. Enter the blessed bologna spread, a creamy, tangy concoction made from finely ground bologna, mayonnaise, and chopped pickles. A true testament to making the most of what you had, this spread transformed an inexpensive lunch meat into a flavorful filling for sandwiches or crackers. For church picnics and potlucks, it was a go-to dish, easy to prepare, affordable, and guaranteed to feed a crowd. The beauty of this spread lay in its adaptability. It could be served between slices of soft white bread, stuffed into hollowed-out celery stalks, or simply spooned onto crackers for a quick snack. Bologna itself, once a refrigerator mainstay, offered a rich, salty base that paired perfectly with the zing of pickles. It wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be. This was food meant to nourish and bring people together, not impress. So, why has this humble spread disappeared? Changing tastes and the bologna stigma, yes, it exists, contributed to its decline. Once hailed as a budget-friendly staple, bologna lost favor to more sophisticated options. Scalloped corn casserole bubbled in fellowship hall ovens, its creamy texture and sweet corn flavor making it the vegetable dish that even children requested at church suppers. The recipe combined canned cream-style corn with whole kernel corn, beaten eggs, milk, crushed crackers, melted butter, and seasonings mixed together in baking dishes. The mixture baked until set like custard with golden brown edges that developed slightly crispy texture. Each serving delivered corn sweetness intensified by the creamy base, while crackers added body and subtle crunch throughout. Church women appreciated how the casserole stretched affordable canned corn into impressive portions. The dish held its heat well during long potluck lines and reheated without separating or becoming watery. Scalloped corn represented comfort food at its purest. Simple ingredients transformed through careful preparation into something greater than the sum of parts. It was the side dish everyone expected and nobody complained about. Stack pie was the community dessert that required multiple families working together, each contributing a thin layer to a towering finished product. Church women would bake individual pie crust thin layers flavored with spices and molasses, then stack them with apple butter or dried apple filling between each layer until the pie reached 6 inches or higher. The assembled pie rested for days, allowing moisture from the filling to soften the layers into a unified whole that sliced cleanly and tasted of concentrated autumn. This wasn't a dessert one family could make alone. The labor of rolling multiple layers, the apple butter made from community pressing parties, the assembly requiring steady hands, all demanded cooperation. What made stack pie remarkable was how its creation mirrored the community that ate it, with individual contributions becoming something greater than any part. Churches served stack pie at homecoming suppers when families returned to ancestral congregations, its presence signaling that traditions still mattered. Hot chicken salad defied its name by being neither salad nor cold, instead delivering warm casserole combining diced chicken with celery, mayonnaise, and crushed potato chips into something bizarrely wonderful. Church ladies mixed cooked chicken with cream of chicken soup, chopped celery, sliced almonds, and enough mayonnaise to bind everything, then topped the mixture with crushed Lay's potato chips before baking until bubbly and golden. The result was creamy, crunchy, and completely addictive, hitting savory notes that made it perfect alongside green beans and dinner rolls. The casserole held heat remarkably well, staying warm through lengthy church services without drying out. In Methodist churches across North Carolina and Virginia, hot chicken salad was potluck royalty, with women competing to achieve the perfect ratio of filling to chip topping. The dish represented 50s ingenuity, combining canned soup, leftover chicken, and potato chips into something tasting expensive despite costing pennies. Number 7. Sweet yeast rolls. A Southern Baptist grandmother in Macon, Georgia, named Eula Mae Benson, made 90 rolls for every church supper at her congregation from 1968 through 1981. A package of Fleischmann's yeast dissolved in warm milk, a stick of butter melted, 3 eggs, a quarter cup of sugar, 6 cups of flour worked in by hand on a floured kitchen table. Let rise 2 hours, punched down, rolled into balls and arranged 3 to a muffin cup in greased tins. Let rise again, baked 20 minutes at 400, brushed with butter while still hot. The rolls came out of your oven the color of a brown paper bag, and the smell in your fellowship hall when the tin was uncovered was the smell of a grandmother's kitchen multiplied by 40. Eula Mae had arthritis in both hands by 1979. She still made the rolls. Her daughter asked her why. She said, "Because nobody else knows how." Number 17, biscuits and chocolate gravy. Self-rising flour, shortening, and buttermilk for the biscuits. Cocoa powder, sugar, and milk for the gravy. Technically 6 ingredients across 2 components, but the church ladies of the Ozarks counted it as 3 because they considered biscuits a given, not an ingredient. The gravy was the recipe. Cocoa, sugar, milk, whisked in a cast iron skillet over medium heat until it thickened into a dark, sweet, silky sauce that you poured over split biscuits and ate with your fingers. In Appalachian churches from eastern Kentucky to the hollows of West Virginia, this was the dessert that ended every potluck from October to March. Children lined up for it. Grown men took seconds. A box of Hershey's cocoa cost 35 cents in 1958 and made enough gravy for 20 biscuits. That was dessert for the entire congregation at a cost your pocket change could cover. The women who made it measured with their hands and 40 years of memory that no cookbook could teach. Number 16, funeral potatoes. Frozen hash browns, a can of cream of chicken soup, crushed cornflakes on top, baked until the cornflakes turned golden and the potatoes underneath melted into something warm and filling and impossibly comforting. The Relief Society of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints made this dish so often for grieving families that it earned its name from the occasion. By the 1950s, funeral potatoes had spread beyond Utah and Idaho into Methodist and Baptist churches across the Great Plains. A bag of frozen hash browns cost 39 cents in 1960. A can of soup cost 15 cents. A box of cornflakes cost a quarter. You could comfort an entire bereaved family for under 80 cents. That was the economics of grief in mid-century America. You could not fix the loss. You could not fill the empty chair. But you could fill the table, and for one evening, surrounded by the smell of something warm and familiar, that had to be enough. The dish earned its name honestly. If your grandmother unmolded a tomato aspic without it collapsing, she earned the quiet respect of every woman in the room. Tomato juice simmered with Worcestershire, celery salt, and a bay leaf, then set with Knox gelatin in a ring mold and chilled overnight. The next morning, she ran a knife around the edge, placed a lettuce-lined platter on top, and flipped. When it released clean, ruby red and trembling on the plate, it was a small domestic triumph. Aspic ruled Southern church luncheons from the 1940s through the 60s. Jell-O even released a seasoned tomato flavor to meet demand. Some women filled the center with chicken salad, turning the ring into a complete presentation. By the 70s, fresh salads pushed aspic off the table and it began to seem quaint. The ring molds sit in estate sale boxes now. The women who could unmold them blindfolded left behind the pans but not the nerve. Among the more distinctive dishes to grace church gatherings was a plate of pickled pig's feet, a delicacy that balanced bold flavors with time-honored tradition. This was a real testament to thrift and preservation. Pickling allowed communities to store meat without refrigeration, ensuring nothing went to waste. The process was straightforward. Pig's feet were boiled until tender, then soaked in a brine of vinegar, salt, and spices. Some recipes added sugar for a touch of sweetness, while others leaned heavily on black pepper, garlic, or red pepper flakes for heat. After a few days in the jar, the result was tangy, gelatinous, and intensely flavorful, a true Southern staple. For decades, this dish held a firm place at church picnics and family reunions, often served cold alongside cornbread and greens. But as processed foods and fast meals took over, dishes requiring days of patience and an adventurous palate started disappearing. Today, pickled pig's feet are mostly found in specialty markets, their legacy preserved by a handful of die-hard traditionalists. Could they make a comeback? Well, if bone broth can be trendy, who's to say pickled pork can't follow? Mock tuna salad casserole was a practical and budget-friendly alternative found in church kitchens where canned tuna might not have been readily available or was too costly. Instead, cooks substituted canned chicken or other affordable meats, combined with pasta or rice, and enveloped in a creamy, seasoned sauce. This casserole offered all the comfort of a classic tuna salad casserole, but with ingredients adapted to the constraints of the pantry. It was typically topped with breadcrumbs or crushed crackers for a crunchy finish before baking. The dish was easy to prepare in large batches, making it ideal for feeding groups during church socials or fundraisers. Mock tuna salad casserole highlighted the resourcefulness of home cooks who sought to preserve familiar flavors while making adjustments for availability and cost. Its enduring popularity in old church cookbooks illustrates how adaptability and tradition coexisted in community meals, ensuring everyone could enjoy a hearty, satisfying supper, regardless of circumstance. Egg, cabbage, and noodle salad was a favorite at many 1950s church potlucks, offering a light yet satisfying option among the heavier dishes. This salad combined tender cooked noodles with finely shredded cabbage, tossed together in a simple dressing usually made from vinegar, oil, and sugar to balance tanginess and sweetness. Sometimes carrots or onions were added to enhance texture and color. The salad's crisp cabbage contrasted nicely with the softness of the noodles, creating a refreshing dish that complemented meat-heavy entrees. It was economical to prepare, feeding large groups with minimal ingredients, which made it especially popular during times when budgets were tight. Often served cold, cabbage and noodle salad could be made ahead and easily transported to potluck events. Its simplicity and wholesome flavor made it a comforting reminder of home cooking, cherished by many families across various regions. This dish embodied the communal spirit of church gatherings, where sharing food was about more than just eating. It was about connection. Many remember this salad fondly as a staple that brought both familiarity and lightness to the potluck table. Old-fashioned stewed apples is the kind of dish that evokes instant nostalgia. Slow cooked to perfection with cinnamon, butter, and brown sugar, these apples fill the house with a warm, comforting aroma that instantly transports you back to simpler times. Served in classic glass Pyrex dishes, this sweet, tender dessert was often found at church picnics and family gatherings where it was a reliable crowd pleaser. The apples soften as they cook, absorbing all the flavors of the cinnamon and brown sugar, creating a syrupy, rich sauce that you could almost drink by itself. It's a dish that doesn't need to be fancy to be loved, just the right balance of sweet and spicy, with that home-cooked, heartwarming feeling. It's perfect on its own, or as a topping for ice cream or pound cake. But if you think stewed apples are the ultimate comfort dessert, there's a salad coming up that has just as much nostalgic value. Stay tuned for the next dish. So, gospel-glazed meatballs were pretty much the go-to holiday party food to go for, and their popularity was really something that was rooted in how simple this dish was. The original grape jelly and chili sauce glaze combination really came from here and broke into the mainstream. Lots of churches, depending on regional differences, preferences, and tastes, would also often use things in place of the typical apricot preserves that people would put in the grape jelly. They'd use orange marmalade or cranberry sauces, and some would make spicier versions instead of the typical super sweet ones. You could add in sriracha and crushed red pepper, or also add in chipotle. Some savory additions like garlic meant for a pretty neat little twist on an otherwise incredible meatball. The thing about meatballs was that as nice as they would also get pretty stale and repetitive. You grow up eating something like that your whole life and coming back home to it for Sunday dinner, then you go to a church and get the same, and it can kind of be a downer, despite how good this alternative way of making them was. In the kitchens of the South, where comfort food was practically a calling, one small golden snack became a beloved staple at church picnics and potlucks alike: sausage balls. These bite-sized morsels, made from sausage, cheese, and a touch of baking mix, were the perfect balance of savory and satisfying. They were an art form of resourcefulness, transforming simple pantry staples into something people would talk about long after the picnic ended. Sausage balls gained popularity in the mid-20th century when convenience mixes like biscuit became household essentials. Their practicality was unmatched, easy to make, even easier to transport, and nearly impossible to mess up. Whether served warm from the oven or cooled at room temperature, they held their flavor and texture, making them a no-brainer for any gathering. They doubled as appetizers, brunch sides, or even game day treats. So why did they fall out of favor? Over time, shifting dietary trends and a preference for more elaborate finger foods nudged them off the menu. Today, they are just a reminder of simpler times, when recipes were about taste, tradition, and togetherness, not calorie counts or culinary fads. Braunschweiger Ball sat on appetizer tables looking mysterious and sophisticated, its smoky liver flavor appealing to adults while children steered toward sweeter options. The recipe combined Braunschweiger, a smoked liverwurst, with cream cheese softened to room temperature, minced onion, Worcestershire sauce, and sometimes a splash of hot sauce for warmth. The mixture was beaten until smooth, shaped into a ball or log, and rolled in chopped parsley or crispy bacon bits that added color and texture. Served with crackers and cocktail rye bread, the spread offered rich, savory flavor unlike anything else on the potluck table. Church women who brought Braunschweiger balls were known as sophisticated cooks willing to serve something beyond the ordinary. The recipe was affordable since liverwurst cost far less than other meats yet delivered intense flavor. The appetizer kept well for days refrigerated, improving as flavors melded. This distinctive spread represented the adventurous side of 1960s church cooking. Green bean casserole made from scratch bore little resemblance to the canned soup version that later became ubiquitous at holiday tables. Church women blanched fresh green beans until barely tender, then folded them into homemade cream sauce, enriched with sautéed mushrooms, onions, and a touch of cheese. The topping was fried onion strings made by dredging thin slices in flour and frying until crispy and golden. This version required time and attention that the shortcut recipe eliminated, but the difference in flavor was undeniable. The beans retained their snap, the cream sauce tasted of actual cream and butter, and those fried onions shattered with every bite. Churches served this at Thanksgiving suppers and Christmas dinners when the occasion demanded the best versions of familiar foods. What made scratch green bean casserole meaningful was the extra effort it represented. The choice to honor tradition by doing things the harder way. It was a dish that said the gathering mattered enough for real cooking. Pineapple casserole confused outsiders who couldn't understand why fruit needed cheese and crackers, but church ladies knew this sweet and savory combination was Southern magic. Crushed pineapple was drained and mixed with sugar and flour. Then sharp cheddar cheese was stirred in before the mixture was poured into buttered casserole dishes and topped with crushed Ritz crackers mixed with melted butter. The casserole baked until cheese melted and cracker topping turned golden brown, creating something that straddled the line between side dish and dessert. Pineapple provided tropical sweetness, cheese added savory richness, and buttery crackers delivered crunch. In Episcopal churches across South Carolina and Georgia, pineapple casserole appeared at every Easter dinner, Christmas reception, and ladies' luncheon. Some church ladies added marshmallows, others included coconut, but traditionalists kept it pure with just pineapple, cheese, and crackers, proving Southern creativity could transform canned fruit into conversation starter. Number 15, Coca-Cola cake. A grandmother in Birmingham, Alabama, named Lillian Gresham wrote this recipe into a Methodist church cookbook printed in 1974. 1 cup of Coca-Cola from a glass bottle, not a can. 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of sugar. A stick and a half of butter. 3 tablespoons of cocoa. A cup of miniature marshmallows stirred into the batter. Baked in a 13-by-9 pan. A hot fudge icing poured over the cake while it was still warm, made with another half cup of Coke, more butter, more cocoa, and a box of powdered sugar. The marshmallows floated to the top during baking and made a soft, spotted surface like a tide pool. Lillian's recipe appeared on page 47. Her name was printed under it in small capital letters. For a woman whose husband got his name in the newspaper twice, once when he was promoted at the mill and once when he died, that page was the only place she ever saw her name in print. The cookbook sold for $3. It paid for a new church roof. Number 23, Depression casserole. Ground beef, canned corn, sliced potatoes, layered in a baking dish and cooked until the potatoes softened and the beef fat soaked into every layer. This recipe had no name in 1934. Women just called it supper. It appeared in church cookbooks across the Midwest with slight variations but always the same bones: meat on the bottom, starch on top, a vegetable somewhere in between. A pound of ground beef cost 12 cents during the Depression. A can of corn cost a nickel. The potatoes came from the garden. The whole dish fed a family of 6 for under 20 cents. By the 1950s, Baptist churches in Tennessee and Georgia were serving this at homecoming dinners, feeding 60 people from a dozen casserole pans lined up on folding tables covered with paper tablecloths. Nobody photographed it. Nobody wrote about it. If you grew up in the rural South, you knew this dish. It showed up because that was what those women did. If the cheese ball opened the evening, chicken divan was why people stayed in line. This was the casserole that made frozen broccoli taste expensive. A layer of steamed florets, a layer of cooked chicken, and a sauce that had no right being that good. Cream of chicken soup mixed with mayonnaise, a squeeze of lemon, and sharp cheddar, baked until it bubbled at the edges under a cap of buttered breadcrumbs. The name came from the Divan Parisien restaurant in New York, where the original was refined. But the church potluck version, built on canned soup and frozen vegetables, became the one that fed the country. In the 1960s, chicken divan was glamorous, the dish you made when you wanted the church women to notice your cooking. Assemble it that morning, slide it into the oven an hour before serving, and watch the breadcrumbs. When they went from pale to deep gold, you pulled it. That pan came home empty every single time. The woman who perfected the mayo to soup ratio is the one whose empty chair nobody talks about. For decades, home canning was a seasonal ritual in American kitchens, and among the rows of pickles and preserves, there was often a jar of something deep red, vibrant, and unmistakable: beet relish. Sweet yet tangy, with just the right amount of bite, this old-fashioned condiment was a staple at church potlucks and holiday dinners, adding color and flavor to otherwise simple meals. Beets were an easy crop to grow, and preserving them meant they could be enjoyed well beyond harvest season. The relish itself was a blend of cooked grated beets, vinegar, sugar, and a generous spoonful of horseradish. That last ingredient gave it a slight kick, making it the perfect companion for roast meats, sandwiches, or even a dollop over cottage cheese. A pairing that might raise eyebrows today, but was once a Midwestern favorite. So why did this once popular spread fade into obscurity? Blame the shift towards store-bought condiments. As ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise became the default sandwich toppings, beet relish was slowly left behind. But as more home cooks rediscover small-batch preserving and bold farm-fresh flavors, this forgotten favorite is showing signs of a comeback. Creamed peas and carrots offered a smooth and comforting option that was often found on church supper tables, as either a side or a main dish for those seeking lighter fare. The vegetables were gently cooked and then enveloped in a rich, creamy sauce, typically made from butter, flour, and milk or cream. This dish emphasized simple ingredients elevated through careful preparation to create a velvety texture that was both nourishing and satisfying. It was popular in congregations where vegetable gardening was common, making fresh peas and carrots readily available during growing seasons. Its sweet and savory balance appealed to a wide range of tastes, making it a crowd pleaser at potlucks and social gatherings. The creaminess made the vegetables feel indulgent while still being wholesome, providing comfort during colder months or as a gentle accompaniment to meat dishes. Creamed peas and carrots exemplified how church kitchens focused on creating inviting, hearty meals with modest ingredients that encouraged fellowship and warmth at every table. Heavenly hash, a chilled dish that captured the essence of nostalgia, was a favorite at church functions, especially in the summertime. This simple yet delightful mix of fruit cocktail, mini marshmallows, coconut, and sour cream was a creamy, sweet treat that brought everyone back to the good old days. It was the perfect dessert to bring to a church potluck, offering a refreshing and light dish that could be enjoyed on a warm afternoon. Despite its simplicity, Heavenly Hash had a way of surprising people with its comforting combination of flavors and textures. The fruit cocktail added a juicy sweetness, while the marshmallows provided just the right amount of softness. The coconut brought a subtle chewiness, and the sour cream tied it all together, adding a tangy balance. This dish was the kind of recipe that, once tasted, was never forgotten. But if you're looking for another unexpected twist on comfort food, there's a sweet savory casserole up next that will surely make you rethink pineapple in a whole new way. Before we start going deep into what Church Lady 7-layer salads are, let's talk a bit about what a 7-layer salad even really is. As the name implies, it's got 7 actual layers to it, so you can kind of think of this as a quadra-burger, or the lasagna of salads. It's pretty much always served in a glass bowl, and this is meant to work with the presentation and really add some wow factor to the dish. The traditional way to go about making a 7-layer salad is with vegetables like chopped tomatoes, green peas, lettuce, hard-boiled eggs, bacon, onion, and cheese. Besides the obvious aesthetic appeal of something like that, you could also make this salad in advance, and churches were always on the lookout for the kind of dishes you could make and prepare ahead of time because of how busy they were. Now, the 7-lady version is a bit different. In churches, the concept of a church lady had become pretty popular. They were these women who would tend to the churchgoers and often end up being the foundational base of a lot of these potlucks, church gatherings, and neighborhood-wide meals. While it did give them a chance to show off their skills, most of everything you see on this list was really typically made by a church lady. In the 20th century, church picnics were more than gatherings. They were culinary showcases, where simple ingredients turned into unforgettable creations. Among these was a dish that perfectly embodied practicality and crowd-pleasing charm, the hot dog crowned with creamy coleslaw. Born in the South, where coleslaw was practically a religion, this combination united 2 beloved staples into a handheld masterpiece. It was cheap, easy to assemble, and had the rare gift of tasting just as good warm as it did after sitting out for a hymn or two. The versatility of this dish made it a picnic powerhouse. Whether paired with smoky barbecue sauces or left unadorned, the coleslaw added crunch, tang, and a cool contrast to the savory hot dog. It was the kind of recipe where you didn't need a culinary degree, just a willingness to roll up your sleeves and pile it high. Kids loved it. Adults appreciated its simplicity, and even the most novice cooks could pull it off. But as convenience foods grew in popularity, fresh coleslaw recipes fell by the wayside. Pre-packaged sides and fast food chains stole the spotlight, leaving the Salvation Slaw dog behind. Orange fluff appeared at church potlucks in bright citrus glory, its creamy texture and sunshine color making it equally at home on salad or dessert tables. The recipe combined orange gelatin with cottage cheese, canned mandarin oranges drained carefully, crushed pineapple, and Cool Whip folded together until fluffy and light. Some versions added miniature marshmallows for extra sweetness and chewiness. The mixture chilled until firm enough to hold its shape when scooped, yet soft enough to melt on the tongue. Children adored its sweetness while adults appreciated the brightness that cut through heavier potluck dishes. Church women valued how quickly it came together. No cooking required, just mixing and chilling overnight. The orange color looked festive on fellowship hall tables, especially during Easter and spring gatherings when bright dishes felt appropriate. Orange fluff stretched expensive ingredients across large batches, feeding dozens from a few cans and 1 container of whipped topping. Poke salad with bacon was the springtime dish that appeared on church tables when families emerged hungry from winter's preserved foods and craved fresh greens. Pokeweed grew wild throughout the South, sending up tender shoots each March that provided the first edible greens of the season before gardens produced anything. The preparation required knowledge passed through generations. Young poke leaves had to be boiled in multiple changes of water to remove toxins that made mature plants dangerous. Churchwomen who understood these techniques gathered, poked together, processing large batches for community meals. The cooked greens were then fried with bacon drippings and crumbled bacon until wilted and richly flavored. Served alongside cornbread, poke salad delivered vitamins and minerals that winter-weary bodies desperately needed while connecting congregations to foraging traditions. This was survival knowledge disguised as supper, reminding people that nature provided abundance for those who understood where to look. Number 14. Chicken and rice casserole. A pastor's wife in Tulsa, Oklahoma named Frances Kittredge made this for every new family that joined her husband's Church of Christ from 1972 onward. A pound of cooked chicken pulled from a Sunday bird, a cup of minute rice, a can of cream of chicken soup, a can of cream of mushroom soup, a cup of water, a sleeve of Ritz crackers crushed with melted butter on top. Baked 40 minutes. It cost her about $1.85 in 1976 to feed a family of 5. Frances drove it to their house before they had finished unpacking. She knocked, handed it over in a Corningware dish with masking tape on the bottom that said, "Return to Frances," and left without staying to chat. 40 years later, 3 of those families could still tell you exactly what that casserole tasted like, but none of them could remember her husband's first sermon. Number 8. Pinto bean soup. A bag of dried pinto beans, a ham hock, water. Simmered for 3 hours until the beans turned creamy and the broth pulled every trace of smoke and salt from that cheap cut of pork. A bag of dried pintos cost $1.09 in 1975. A ham hock cost 39 cents a pound. Water was free. An entire pot that served 12 people cost less than $2. In the Carolinas and Georgia, churches held events called poor man's suppers where the menu was pinto beans, cornbread, and coleslaw. Nothing else. The ticket cost $1, and every penny went to the building fund or the missionary fund or whatever the congregation needed that month. A church in Spartanburg, South Carolina, held a poor man's supper every first Friday from 1971 to 1988 and raised enough money to build a new fellowship hall. The foundation of that building was poured with concrete, but it was paid for with beans. Here is something the food industry does not talk about. The meals that built churches and fed communities and held families together across generations are meals that nobody can sell you. A bag of dried beans has no brand loyalty. A ham hock has no advertising budget. The profit margin on a can of tomatoes is pennies. That is why you never see commercials for pinto bean soup. That is why no celebrity chef writes a cookbook about potato soup with 3 ingredients. The foods that kept congregations alive are the foods nobody can make money from. The church kitchen was never a market. It was a ministry. And the value of a meal is not measured in what it costs to buy. It is measured in what it costs to go without. She started rolling them the morning of the supper, and if you kept your hands clean, she let you help. Swedish meatballs in the upper Midwest were not the frozen bags. They were ground beef and pork mixed with breadcrumbs soaked in cream, grated onion, a pinch of allspice, and sometimes nutmeg that nobody admitted was there. Each one rolled by hand, no bigger than a walnut, browned in butter in a cast-iron skillet in batches that took the better part of an hour. The gravy came from the drippings, flour stirred into browned butter, then broth added slowly while she scraped the pan with a wooden spoon. Scandinavian immigrants brought this to Minnesota and Wisconsin in the late 1800s. By the 50s, Swedish meatball suppers were a Lutheran church staple across the plains. The lingonberry jam on the side was non-negotiable, tart against the richness of that cream gravy. The women who rolled 200 meatballs before sunrise are gone now. The frozen ones taste like nothing they would recognize. 60 dishes. 60 Sunday potlucks that fed millions of Americans across 100 years of folding tables and basement kitchens and hymnals stacked in the corner. The Lutheran tuna noodle. The Baptist banana pudding. The Methodist green bean casserole the deacon's wife brought every 5th Sunday until she could not lift the dish anymore. Tell us in the comments which one came out of your church kitchen and what part of the country you grew up in. Because these were not just casseroles. They were a women's league feeding a town, one waxed paper plate at a time, every week, until the church hall went quiet.